Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And I am actually in a valley, and this valley here is called Glendalough. And yes, it's Gaelic, but we're still in Ireland. And Glen, we all know that, is the valley. Da means two, and loch means lake. So it's the valley of the two lakes. We're actually here at the upper lake. There is a lower lake, and it's a beautiful scene around here, and it's a beautiful place to be. There's a national park here, so we are actually allowed to film in the national park. And this area around here is very connected to a saint, and that name of the saint was Saint Kevin. And he came here in 480, 490, something around there. It's not quite written down, and he was not a man that was like a saint that's sat in a church and like that, but he was actually a nobleman. But he didn't want the easy life of a nobleman where his servants would bring everything to him, but he wanted to live a real life, and he actually went out into the wilderness and lived in the wilderness around here. There's a story of him staying in a cell in a little cave that he built out of stone, and he was foraging around here and living with nature, really very much in touch with nature. And then there's a story, a legend about him, because he was a saint. He stood in the lake and he was spreading out his arms and praying, and then there was a blackbird landing in his hand, and actually building a nest and laying the eggs in his nest. So he was actually so kind that he would stand there for another 13 days until the little birds hatched, and then he stayed there another 13 days for them to actually fly away. And after that he did his dues. And so this kind of gives you an idea. He wanted to live the way, not the easy route, but a proper life. And this is actually a distillery was built here, and they took the idea, the inspiration of that. They actually wanted also to do the right way, not the easy way, but do the right way, and they took inspiration from that. And today we're gonna have a look around and see the distillery, how they actually do their whiskey the right way. So I just had a nice chat with the head distiller here, and he explained to me how they actually gonna produce the new make for the new whiskey in the future, and what they're experimenting with, and how they have been running, and how they're gonna have the spirit in the future. So it starts all off here back in the wash still. It's pretty small scale, so you have a really small size of a still. It's 250 liters, and first thing is you distill it, and it's just a normal wash still. There's no cuts. You just distill it down until you have the pot ale and it's released. And they actually do have a second still, and they do a triple distillation, even though they don't have 3 stills. So that's what they have to do, is they have to run the second still twice. So it's in here, and for the second and the third, the shape of a still is very, very important. So you have the big bulge, that's the reflux bowl, a lot of reflux going in there, a lot of copper contact, and with then it being distilled and then being distilled a second time, it makes it really nice, round, and a really fine spirit, as you know of an Irish whiskey is supposed to be triple distilled and a really nice spirit. And what is also really, really nice here is what they do here is they don't really do the cuts in a scientific measurement way. They do it by flavor. So what they do know where around their cut is. That's obvious. So you have a measurement here with the density. You can see how much alcohol are we, and I'm getting to where I want to have the cut, and then they actually do taste, because that's that's what they believe in. They believe in taste. They believe in flavor. So the cut is then done. So I'm here. I'm right at the point, and then he switches it over to the faints, and they're being recycled for the next run. That's usual practice, and that is how they produce their new make spirit. So this is the production here in a nutshell, and we're gonna talk a little bit now about what the real focus is. Unfortunately, we cannot see the warehouses, but we're gonna talk about the warehouse and have a chat and feel what is the speciality about the Glendalough Distillery. So I'm sitting here with Gary McLaughlin, and you're one of the founders of the company. So yeah, thank you very much for having us here.
You're so welcome. Guten Tag.
Yes. I found out that you are really putting the emphasis on where you mature your whiskey in, and I have to say, yeah, maturing the whiskey is kind of the most important part. So what are you doing with your oak, and what are you doing with your wood?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, you've been out foraging with Geraldine, and we've been talking gin already today, and what we find really interesting is flavor, okay, and where do you get that flavor naturally? And Geraldine forages around Wicklow to find all different types of flavor, okay. You can find chili, you can find citrus, you can find chocolate. We decided, okay, from our whiskey point of view, when it goes into its secondary barrel, let's put some really interesting flavors into our whiskey, okay? But we can't go around Wicklow, around where we're from, to find those. Well, we can, but we've gone all over the world to find the very best oak to give our whiskies a unique and amazing finish. So whether that's around the distillery where we are here, in the forests around the distillery, in the mountains around Glendalough, where we have some beautiful Irish oak, or we go to the other side of the world, to Japan, to Hokkaido, to get some Mizunara oak, which is just incredibly different oak. Or we use European oak, we use oak from the USA. So it's a real passion of ours to sort of go that extra mile on this sort of like relentless search for the finest oak to put our whiskies in. So it's something that we just find so interesting, and you know, I think awards and recognition will tell you that we're doing a pretty good job of it.
Okay, so when you have, say, oak from Wicklow, is it like, I haven't seen that much wood around here. Is there enough here to store your demand? Or?
Yeah, like Ireland used to be known as like the wooded island. They used to say a squirrel could go from the from the east to the west of Ireland just on oak trees. So back in the day, there were many oak trees. Unfortunately, for many reasons, maybe political reasons, I won't go into. But yeah, there aren't as many, obviously, as there used to be. But Wicklow, we're big into rewilding where we're from. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So we're not about cutting trees down. If we cut a tree down, which we do, we plant 7. Okay, so let's just put that down there first of all. But yes, there are some beautiful oak forests in the mountains, very close to the distillery.
Oh, okay.
And what we do is we go out at harvesting time, and we with a forester, and we pick the right trees to cut down. And it's so interesting because there have to be like trees that are growing together. They have to be a certain size, a certain girth. When you cut the tree down, the canopy has to be opened up so that sunlight can get down, and the saplings that you've planted, the 7 saplings, can regrow again. So we're passionate about that. Okay?
Okay.
So big time. It has to be right. We have to rewild. We have to make sure that we're giving back and growing more, and that when we leave this earth, there'll be more oak trees in Wicklow than when we started. You know. So yeah.
Yeah. So the next generation gonna have enough oak trees to start another project like this.
Absolutely.
So what's the first thing we're gonna have?
The first thing we're gonna
I'm really excited.
Is our best-selling whiskey around the world, and it's called Double Barrel. So Glendalough Double Barrel. So this is the yes. I think that's just. Let me make sure. Yes, this is it. This is our award-winning, fantastic single grain whiskey. So Irish whiskey. So it has some malted barley in it, but predominantly corn or maize. It's first of all put in. It's made in a coffee still. It's double distilled. It is then put into bourbon for just over 3 years. So you'll get lots of lovely bourbon notes. But then what you also get is those sort of what we call Christmas cake notes. So a fig and raisin. And,
I thought that it can't be just bourbon barrel.
and sultanas and cherry and mascherino cherry. So that's coming from the Oloroso. So a lot of people use sherry to finish their whiskies and to age their whiskies. A lot of people go to Jerez to get those barrels. We go up the hills into the hills of Montilla to find the very best Oloroso. And they use the PX grape. So it's beautiful, gorgeous. So sláinte.
Yeah, sláinte.
Yeah,
it's nice and crisp. Has a bit of a nuttiness also to it.
So that beautiful rounded Christmas cake comes through again, but there's almond. There's certainly a cinnamon on the finish. Maraschino cherries again.
Oh, when you swallow it, that's when it really hits you.
Bit of lemongrass.
What is that? The maraschino? It has like a little bit of a. Yeah, it is a cherry, but it's one of these. It's not fermented. I would say maybe a bit insulting, but mocherie, like when you have a dark chocolate combined with the cherry, maybe better than mocherie. It's just too. But I love it. It has that grapey, fruity cherry to it, combined with a volume and with that chocolatiness. I like it.
I think for a 4-year-old whiskey,
it's nice.
It's punching above its weight, So this is our. We do an awful lot with this whiskey. We sell it all over the world. It's I like to drink it straight. Some people like to put it in a cocktail. Some people drink it with a beer, Boilermaker. It's very versatile, but on its own, it's fantastic.
I like how much weight it has in the finish, and when you just swallowed it. I thought that it, like from the nose, it was more of a light whiskey. When you swallow it, you realize, okay, that has some good oak in it.
Yeah, I think it is a complex whiskey, even though it is like I know what you're saying. There's a lightness to it. It's very drinkable. It's sort of moreish, but there's those the Oloroso with the bourbon has, I think, those Oloroso grapes and the European oak just give it that nice complexity you would maybe expect from a whiskey of this age or this price. It's a great quality whiskey for great value whiskey.
I do like it. So I have to say I've learned a little bit about the oak. So I've seen a tasting where we had different kind of matured spirit from all around Limousin oak from France. How did you get to the knowledge, or how did you pick and choose what kind of oak, and how did you approach that kind of project where you say, okay, we want to go an oak finished whiskey, oak focused whiskey?
So I'll be really honest with you. At the start, we wanted to put our stamp on the whiskey in terms of let's be, we're big into flavor. We're big into, as I said, from a gin point of view. Then that's where we started out. We were just really interested in what different types of oak bring to the whiskey. So what does an Irish oak bring to the whiskey versus a European oak like that the Oloroso was in before it, versus the American oak from which we had bourbon in. And we were just fascinated with the different varieties of oak, the different locations where they grow. Like it's the same type of oak that grows here that might grow in Spain or in France, but they'll impart a different taste. Even in the forests where we cut them down, some might be in a shady area, some might be more of a sunny area, some might get more water, some might be, you know, more nutrients in the soil versus others. So even in the same forest where we cut down our Irish oak, you'll get nuances. And that's why we came out with a pot still that's finished in Irish oak, which we're going to taste next. That we number it by the tree, so it comes right back to the tree. Yeah. So it's like, so it's like from here. This is our pot still.
Can I?
Yeah, please. You'll see that's actually the rubbing of tree number 1 that we cut down. Our creative director had his crayons out, and he literally got the, honestly, true story, and he did the same when we cut the tree. So that's the when we cut through tree number 1, that's a rubbing of tree number 1. But you'll see there's a. It starts with bottle number, but it ends with tree number. So batch number, tree number, and cask number. So you're going to taste a difference with tree number 1 to say tree number 14, which is from a different part of the wood, which we find fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's always with whiskey you have, even with gin, you have a natural product, and natural products vary quite a lot. So this is then what we're gonna have in the glass is tree number 1.
This is tree number 1, and this is our pot still. So Irish pot still, quintessentially Irish. I presume your listeners or viewers know what pot still is?
Not all of them, so you might as well explain.
Okay, so it's a nice story. So back in the day, a number of years ago, when the English ruled Ireland, they used to tax malted barley. Okay, so if you made a whiskey using malted barley, you'd be taxed on the malted barley. They didn't tax unmalted barley. So the Irish went, okay, I wonder can we make a whiskey with unmalted barley? So that's where pot still came from. So the mash bill is a percentage of malted and a percentage of unmalted. And that can change. So this is 66% unmalted, 33% malted. That can change with various different brands, various different companies. We tried a few different mash bills, and we found that 2/3, 1/3 was the best for us.
Okay, and distilled in a pot still, as it's called.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Sorry, of course, distilled in a pot still. So then aged for 3 years in bourbon, first filled bourbon, and then the magic happens. So that's when we went out and we chopped down the trees, planted 7 for every one we chopped down, and we made these gorgeous, beautiful virgin oak casks. All numbered back to the tree, and we put this pot still into those casks for up to a year to really get a taste of the hills around Wicklow and from where we're from into our whiskey.
How big did you make the casks?
The casks are 500 litres.
Some of the big ones.
Yeah, they're big guys. I can show them to you. They're just downstairs.
And virgin oak, so there's nothing in between before that?
Nothing before it.
Just cutting down, drying.
Yeah, cutting down, drying, coopering, and then putting our liquid into it. So there's a lovely, fresh, citrusy, really green. There's a greenness to it. I always just my mind goes straight back to the forest when we cut the trees down. I can nearly smell the forest.
Yeah, it's always, if you have a memory of something that you taste, it's a lot different than you just take it out of bottle. So
yeah. So I get a herbaceousness to it, but it's light, it's bright, it's citrusy.
It's citrusy. It has a. Strangely enough, it has a bit of a malty note to it as well.
Yeah,
but it's relatively light. But I've been I've had the first one. I will not talk about the taste yet.
Yeah, slow and chip.
Slow and chip. Yeah.
I'd say this is chewy. Do you know what I mean? It's coats your mouth. You get the bourbon, okay, you get that lovely vanillins, and you get what you'd expect from a bourbon.
You do, but
then you get this spiciness, this leather.
But it's what it reminds me of. It has a. It's not quite ginger, but in the region, it has a spiciness to it that reminds me of some sort of.
Is it cinnamon?
Cakes. I'm not quite sure.
I get cinnamon at the end anyway, definitely, and a lovely just tannins. I think the tannins, especially that virgin oak tannins, I think that gives it me
Again, it's heavier than expected.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
It has more volume, and
you can see the legs on it. You know, it's pretty. It's a robust. It's a robust whiskey. You know, and you do get the malt. Like there's a lovely maltiness to it as well. But yeah, I get that herbaceousness coming through it as well in the finish.
It's strange, and I have to say, it's different, and I'm not quite sure if I ever had a Irish oak. I guess it classifies also as European oak. Usually, people are not that precise with oak as you are.
But you'll get, because it's Ireland, we have a shore, cold, so it takes longer to grow. So you'll get a different grain versus, let's say, Spain or France, where they're oak. So while the same species, it'll be a different.
Must be a really dense, tough oak then.
Yeah, yeah. I'll show you the barrels when we go downstairs, and you can see for yourself.
So, but when you have, you've already told me a little about the difference between French oak and Irish oak. Is there a difference between Irish oak and Irish oak? Can you see that when you have like a southern or a northern, or is that really a big thing?
To be honest, our climate's pretty throughout the island is very much the same. You don't get too many fluctuations, and we only use Wicklow oak, so it's even smaller. So you're talking about, like, we've used from 3 different forests, but they're all within maybe 30 kilometers of each other. So in terms of the profile, as I said, maybe where it was grown in terms of the nutrients in the soil, or the amount of water it gets, or the amount of sun it gets, or, as I said, if you taste tree number 1 versus tree number 7, you will get variances in the taste, purely because it's like botanicals. Like, you might pick the same botanical, but it'll taste different.
Yeah. So the fluctuation in between individual oaks is bigger than the fluctuation would be noticeable from like southern, northern, or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I really like it. I like it that you put down the tree on the bottle. But how many casks you get out of one tree? Do you know that?
It depends. One of the trees we got, one of them was a monster. I think we got 4 casks, but most of them you get on average 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah,
okay.
On average. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it depends on the tree. So yeah, it's.
I had someone calculate how much cornfield you have to get one bottle of bourbon.
Okay.
But I've never heard of how many barrels is a tree.
Yeah. You know, the Mizunara, which we're going to go on to next. Like, you're lucky if you get one barrel out of a Mizunara tree.
Yes, the Mizunara tree. Yeah. Mizunara oak is also known as the corkscrew oak
because of it. So it
grows like that.
Gnarly, I've heard it told. It grows like quite gnarly. But that's another fascinating oak. It's and it's one we heard about. It was sort of like mystical. It was like this Mizunara from the other side of the world, and no other Irish whiskey had ever finished or aged their whiskey in Mizunara. Some Scotch had, obviously in Japan they had as well. We tasted some Scotch which were really expensive that tasted incredibly good, and we decided, okay, let's go and let's explore, and let's go over. And literally we took a trip over. One of our founders, Kev Keenan, went over and saw where they were growing in Hokkaido, the North Island of Japan, the very northerly island. Bit like Ireland, it's cold, so it's sort of, it takes it takes longer for the trees to grow. It's in a sort of more colder climate, so that's where he found the Mizunara trees. But then he went to the cooperage as well, down the Miyazaki precinct down the south of Japan. So basically, the trees are cut up north, but then to cooper and to dry. They're dry obviously first for 3 years. It takes 3 years for them to dry down the south of the island. So like the Irish oak took a year to dry. Okay, the Japanese oak took 3 years to dry, and that's because Mizunara is known as water oak.
Water oak as well.
That's what it translates as. It's water oak,
okay.
because it's so vascular. Yeah, so it's so much veins in it. So it sucks up the water so much that there's so much water in it. It takes 3 years to dry it. Okay. So, and then when it's dried, it's really difficult to cooper because it's brittle. And it's as you said, it's sort of the corkscrew. It grows, so you're lucky to get a straight stave. So it's a fascinating oak, but because it's so vascular and because it soaks up so much water, once it is dry and you put whiskey into it, the whiskey soaks up into it, and that's how it gets. That's how the flavour gets right into the whiskey, and quite quickly as well. The unfortunate thing is it leaks through the stave, not the sides, but through the wood. So they actually they gave us this it's made from fermented fruits, so it's natural. That we paint the barrels with outside, and it's a natural way of keeping it that the water doesn't come out of it, but it still allows it to breathe. Because it wasn't just angel's share, it was devil's share. So it was literally coming out of the barrels. So, but therein lies its grace. That's a saving grace, and that the flavour that it picks up by going so deep into the wood is out of this world.
I was actually on a quest like that as well.
Really?
I'm not quite sure. I've been down south first, where it was like 30 degrees centigrade, and then I went to Hokkaido and it was like, okay, they have a few centimeters of snow still. And I found a tree. The plaque said oak in Japanese letters. I'm not quite sure if it was a Mizunara oak or a different oak, but I'm not quite sure if I had have found the oak, but
the right oak. Okay,
but it's a Mizunara oak is very, very special.
It is.
So, and this one is now a single malt then.
So this is a single malt. And what we believe in Ireland, of course we do because we're Irish, but no, honestly, I believe that we make the best malt. We have, you've seen Ireland, what it looks like. We've beautiful fields of barley. And so what we wanted to do was match the best malts in the world with the best oak, and we believe Mizunara is the best oak. So we went over, as I said, Kev, our one of our founders, saw the trees, met the cooper, picked the casks, paid a lot of money for them. They're like over €3,000 for a cask for
only. I thought they were like 10,000.
Well, still, if you're it's expensive when you're normally.
It's really expensive.
You're normally buying bourbon for maybe €100. It's expensive. So we married the two of them, and actually the cooper said to us at the time, because we said we have this beautiful single malt, and it's we think it's the best in the world, and we think your oak is the best in the world. He said, "Oh, you must have come on the red thread of fate." And our founder said, "What's the red thread of fate?" And he said, in Japan we believe that things that are destined to be together are connected by a red thread. Okay. So you'll see in our bottle we've put a red thread on the bottle because we believe best malt, best oak have come together with this guy. So Sláinte. Oh, sorry, let's nose it first.
But the nosing is quite intriguing because the other ones were really light. This one is a bit more stronger, I would say, and has a nice touch to it that is.
So I initially get that bread
sweet, spicy.
It's a malt, so you can get that sort of breadiness.
Malt,
but I get yellow exotic fruits.
Yes, it's the thing is. They always say it smells like a curry.
Yeah.
And yes, minus the chicken.
Yeah, I got lovely yellows to exotic fruits, a bit of spiciness, and there's a bit of breadiness, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a single malt, and it has not quite sure what it is. It has a texture of like a mixture between curry and a bit of bell pepper powder. Powdered bell pepper. I don't know. I get a bit of pineapple.
Yeah, I get peachy pineapple, sort of yellowy.
I'm not quite sure, but this is complex. Yeah, this is one where you probably also for the price that you have to really focus on when you're sitting at home having a glass and really focusing on the glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a leather couch,
Yeah.
nice and warm. Maybe the fire's on, and you're going, okay, let's contemplate this whiskey.
Yeah, that's one of these.
Let's,
Okay.
let's have a try. Slow and
Slow
chill.
gin.
Yeah. Such a different experience from the first two.
Yeah, you realize that is a different species of tree.
Absolutely, don't you? And the explosion of, like,
But it's really, that one is more spicy than I've had a few Mizunara oaks. The other were, with the tropical fruits and spicy and curry a bit. But this one is more of a, it even had a little bit of a peppery or chili touch to it or something like that, and a lot of spices, a lot of variants of spices. I like it.
yeah, I love the.
Strangely enough, a little bit different spicy than on the nose.
So would this make sense to you, right? So incense, you know when you burn incense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Incense and Mizunara share the same chemical compound. Okay, so if you burn Mizunara, you'll get that smell of incense.
Oh, okay.
I've never tasted incense before, but if I did,
Yes.
I think this has that sort of exotic.
Like one of these incense candles or sticks or what
Yeah,
is it?
but in a nice way, you know.
I like it in the flavor. I like it in the mouth. Yeah.
Coconut, sandalwood.
For me, the coconut is a side note. Is there? Yes.
At the
You have
end.
it in the nose.
Yeah.
But the spiciness is overwhelming. It's nice spiciness. It's a very different spiciness to what you would expect from a European oak or from one of the ones where you have a lot of tannins in it. This is different. So you said the chemical of incense. Okay, interesting. I never heard of that.
It's pretty
That's
cool. And it's also that its nickname in Japan is temple whiskey, and that's why, because of incense. Yeah, so that's because they burn it in the temples. So, but yeah, it's first time I tasted this, I was just blown away. I'd never tasted it. So you've tasted Mizunara before, but I think this is just. I think the combination of the malt, that breadiness, that sort of nice bourbon backbone, but then the lovely cinnamon incense is okay. It's hard to quantify from a taste point of view, but the that sandalwood, that coconut, that chocolate, dark chocolate.
Yeah,
you know, like
it is. Yes, it has dark chocolate in it, but not as much as the other one that had really a chocolatey note to it. I do like it. The spiciness really kicks in. I would love to have that tree nuts be so rare. That would be so great. Yeah. Really need to plant more of these.
Well, they also have a continuous forest management system, so they also plant a number of trees for every one they chop down, which is good.
Yeah, and luckily on Hokkaido, that's the only place in Japan where they have space.
Yeah.
The rest of Japan is just already full.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I love it. You're relatively young for whiskey, but you've brought out quite a number of things, and it was really interesting things. So I like it that you have kind of a startup mentality to it, doing it differently, doing it wildly. So would you reveal anything for what you're planning for the future? Is there anything revealable, or is it all a secret?
There's a few secrets and a few things I can reveal. So, so we're going to have a portfolio of Mizunara. Okay,
wow.
So starting with 7. We used to have a 13-year-old, but when it sold so well, it went very quickly. We will have a 13-year-old again.
Ah, nice.
We have a few parcels of 17 left, but we will have a 17-year-old again. So that's all. We were laying down whiskey, and we've laid down whiskey so that we will have enough for the future. So we're going to a beautiful Mizunara portfolio. And then, we've done some really nice single casks, which you have in Germany. So we have a Madeira, we have a Burgundy, we have a Calvados. So we're looking at other single casks. So expect some more there. We might look at cask strength this time from a single cask point of view. And then there's just one or two other unfortunately, I can't tell you what type of oak and what type of casks, but we've some really interesting ones as well that are to come, and some aged versions as well. Some quite nicely old malts. Yeah.
You always have to have some secrets.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. That's the fun part. Yeah.
Okay, so that was really a big, mouthful, I don't know. But so thank you very much for sharing all the information. Thank you for letting me have the whiskey. It's always amazing.
You're so welcome, and please come back.
Yeah,
welcome
we will
anytime.
probably do in a couple of years time. So cool. So thank you very much for having us here. And
You're so welcome.
thank you very much for watching this video. And if you find the Glendalough whiskies out there on the market, they are really a catch. So have a look out for them. They are sold internationally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.